Hi guys, I'm Scott Speed, driver of this amazing Volkswagen Beetle GRC car. I got good news for the iRacing fam. We got this coming in. I'm currently working on it myself personally to make sure that it is as accurate as possible. With the addition of dirt and now this mean car, it is gonna be so fun. And it's gonna be available free to all the iRacing members. Personally, I can't wait to get out there and race you guys on it.
Welcome one and all to V8's Online's live broadcast of the Oceanic Sprint Championship, round 6 of the series at the magnificent Phillip Island circuit in Melbourne, currently in qualifying at the moment, and we're hyped up for what should be a fantastic race. My name is Reese Gardiner. Joining me in the commentary box is Jay Kennedy. Jay, do you have me?
Hello, Reese. Hello, everyone. Yeah, looking forward to tonight's action. It's going to be absolutely fantastic. Very, very close times. A good mix of cars with the surprise current fastest car being a BMW at the moment, which I'm very, very shocked at.
Yeah, certainly. It looks like a few people up the pointy end of the grid have gone for the BMW this round. Makes sense, I suppose, considering that the BMW's very good in the corners. Not as good on the straights as some of the other cars, but it really makes up for it in those fast-flowing turns, and Anthony Winkelmann is certainly proving that. Currently in position 1 in qualifying with a 25.722 for his time, but Forza El Nabi in the Mercedes not far behind on a 1 minute 25.8.
Yeah, it's very close. And just behind him is Jared Filsell. He's only 4/1000ths of a second behind El Nabi. So the front three separated by just on a tenth. Top 9, 7/10ths of a second, which is very, very close in this series.
It certainly is, especially when you consider the high average speed of Phillip Island. One mistake can set you very far back. Ross Rizzo currently sitting in 4th place in a 1 minute 26.1. Not out on track at the moment, but he's continuing to continue, I suppose, a very good campaign.
He's doing a great job leading the championship at the moment, consolidating finishes, just making sure he's doing enough to keep his car clean, keep out of trouble, and move forward in every race. He's finished higher than his qualifying position in every race of this championship so far, and doing a very, very good job of his campaign run at the moment, and leading the championship by a decent margin.
Yeah, certainly is. Continuing to continue. I'll have to add that one to the phrase book.
That's in the raceographies.
It certainly is. Interestingly, the first Ferrari is Mark Rayner in 6th place. He's currently sitting in the pits, but the Ferrari, not exactly the car of choice here for Phillip Island. A reminder to all of our viewers that car choice is open in the Oceanic Sprint Championship, so drivers can select whatever car they like for whatever track. So it's interesting though, Jay, nonetheless, that we've seen still a huge variety of cars.
Yeah, I think we've seen every mark throughout the series. Last week we saw our first Ford GT with TJ Brown driving that. He's jumped back into the Mercedes this week, but throughout the series last week at Laguna Seca we saw all 6 on track in the same race. This week we've only got the 4 marks out on track. No Audis, no Fords. The Audi very, very tough around this circuit, especially through turn 1. The car pretty much wants to kill you through turn 1, so probably a good choice not to run that this week. But surprised at how well the BMW is doing. I would have thought the Mercedes would have been the car of choice, but BMW definitely is putting on a good show.
Yeah, it certainly is. We've currently got 3 people in the top 5 in BMW. Oh, no, 2, sorry. We've got Anthony Winkelmann and Matt Morris. My mistake. So it's BMW, Mercedes, 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 BMW. And that is your top 5. Matt Morris currently making his way out of Siberia and using quite a bit of non-track material. It looks like he's abandoned this particular run.
Yeah, he's probably got time to get one more lap in as we've got Jared Filsell on screen. Currently in 3rd. Doesn't have to find too much time to gain that next spot. As we said, he's only 4/1000ths of a second away from Forza El Nabi. And he crosses the line.
I think
to
that's
start
an
a flying lap.
There.
Let's start this lap.
Yeah, big speed through turn 1 in these GT3 cars. They got lots of grip, electronics, and downforce in ample amounts. Damn sight more docile than our regular V8 supercars around this circuit. Easy flat through Stoner, and then you're just mashing the brakes here coming into Honda, the hairpin. And the Mercedes was one of those cars that really benefits from maximum use of every input. Like if you feather the throttle in the Mercedes, it'll just understeer. It doesn't really like gradual application of the throttle. You got to be very assertive, I suppose, with your throttle and brake inputs in this car. And Phil Sell, Rizzo, and El Nabi are all drivers who know very well how to do that. It was looking like a pretty good lap from Phil Sell.
It looked very, very tidy and very, very smooth. Probably doesn't have much time to have another run if he does decide this lap isn't good enough. But continuing on through the final corner is usually a pretty positive sign that there will be some improvement, especially with the line he's taken out of the final corner and down the front straight. His current best lap is a 1:25.
To second.
8, it's down to 7. He's only 15 thousandths of a second away from Winkleman. That is close.
Oh, my goodness, it is so close there up the front. And Winkleman is back out there wanting to try and increase that margin.
Yep, so
He'll have seen what time Phil Sell will have done. And yeah, I guess number one priority on his mind is, I need to go faster.
yeah, consolidate that first position, because Phil Sell's a very seasoned campaigner, so want to make sure that he's got some advantage over Phil Sell for the start of this race, and starting in P1 is the biggest advantage you can have. Again, with the pit strategy, there'll be the very large pit window as we saw over the last few weeks, which has been rather exciting to see all the different fuel strategies, and that's another reason that the Ferrari is at a disadvantage with the big long pit stop. Will definitely hurt that car this week, but have a look at that time from Winkleman. Goes quicker by another 4 hundredths of a second. That's enough to push him out to 5.5 hundredths of a second ahead of Phil Sell, who's continued on for another lap.
Yeah, so the question, I suppose, is, I don't know if he maximized his exit out of Honda there. I think he's just cruising around on this one.
Might be letting the tyres cool off a bit before he has one last run. With only a minute left on the clock, doesn't have time to come back to the pits and have another go, so he's just taking it easy before he has one last crack. Forzan El Nabi also on a flying lap at the moment.
Yep, just saw Dave Oliver go by Jared Phil Sell, but yeah, El Nabi looking very nice on this lap. He's pitched it in nice and hard to Siberia, taking advantage of the camber in the road. Now through Hayshed he goes, and just being very light on the brakes coming over the hill at Lukey.
This has looked like another smooth lap, same as Phil Sell's one when he last was on a flyer. Just nice and smooth, nice and controlled inputs, not being too aggressive. And rear on the dirt.
That wouldn't have helped his grip through the last corner. Still, let's see how Forzan El Nabi goes as the checkered flag flies. That's a 26.247, so no improvement from him. Phil Sell, though, is on his final flyer. Oh, he looked like he almost overshot Honda there, but he just managed to pull it up in time, turn the corner into a bit of a V shape, and it's looking like a nice line through Siberia here. Nice late apex, kicking up a bit of dust on the exit.
Matt Morris is also on a flyer, but he's just ended his lap as well. By the looks, so he'll finish in 5th position.
So Winkleman, as you said, Jay, 15 hundredths of a second ahead of Jared Phil Sell. So that's all the time that Phil Sell really needs to gain in order to get that pole position. Looks like he's well on his way to... Whoa, goodness me. Once again, going a little wide on the entry to the final corner, but we'll see how that works out for Phil Sell. He stays all the way to the right, make it run as short as possible. 25.664.
Oh,
so Jared Phil Sell taking pole.
By 18 thousandths of a second.
Oh.
That is very, very close. Last driver on a lap is Simon Mazzomo. So we will wait for Mazzomo to finish his lap. Currently back in 24th, so he'll be looking to get some improvement and move up the field.
Yeah, being very aggressive with those curbs at Lukey Heights. So his current time is a 27.6. tapping the brakes slightly. I don't know if his brake pedal's sticking or not. Getting on the brakes through the final turn. He needs to gain 2/10 to get a position over Dave Oliver, and it looks like that lap is not going to be valid, so we move now to the race session, Jay.
Yeah, we do, and it's going to be very, very close and hard fought, judged on that qualifying session that we've just had. And the starting grid is on screen. So Jared Filso will start from pole, 18 thousandths of a second behind his Anthony Winkleman. Then Forzan El Nabi in third position. Ross Rizzo in fourth. Matt Morris in fifth. Mark Rayner sixth. Then Scott Soslowski, David Jellings, Dylan Carroll, and Brad Watson rounding out the top 10.
Yep, in 11th place, Jeremy Franklin, David Coleman in 12th. Daryl Carter lines up in 13th with Nino Natali behind him in 14th. Brenton O'Brien completes the top 15. Bill Gadd in 16th place. TJ Brown 17th. JP Courier in 18th. 19th, Shannon Mason. And rounding out the top 20, James McKee.
There we've got Phillip Morton in 21st. Mark Simon 22nd. Dave Oliver and Simon Mazzomo 23rd and 24th. Then Rob Harris, Justin Strickland, and Rodney Dangry, the last driver to put in a qualifying lap. We've got some other drivers who will race that have not put in times. It's actually quite a few drivers who did not put in times in qualifying. As we head to this race, 45-minute race as always. It's around about 31, 32 laps around this marvellous, magnificent Australian beauty of Phillip Island, 4.5 k's in length. And one of the best tracks we have in Australia, the most European track we have in Australia, track that most people love, some people hate, but most people love our wonderful Phillip Island circuit. So they wait behind the pace car, ready to go.
Yep, certainly so. They'll be led around a formation lap here before the start of this race. And yeah, as you said, Jay, Phillip Island's one of the gems of Australian motorsport. It's the home of motorcycle racing in Australia, hosts our round of the MotoGP World Championship. It's also got a very good place on our motorsports calendar outside
World
of
Superbikes
motorcycles
as well.
Yes, cannot forget World Superbikes. But yes, a very fast flowing layout that sticks to the land. These rolling dunes on Phillip Island. And it's got cliffs and the ocean just in view of the circuit. An absolutely stunning location for a racetrack.
Very picturesque, and of course not far away from some of the marvellous tourist attractions at Phillip Island too. The Penguin Parade, not far away from the track as well. If you've never seen it, make sure you do. It's absolutely amazing.
Yeah, and if you've got time, you can always take the trip up to the township of Cowes and drive the roads that made the old Phillip Island circuits. Back in the 20s and 30s, they used to do road racing on some of the public roads around the area, and that was the impetus for creating this permanent circuit at Phillip Island in the 1950s.
Pretty amazing history at this track, considering as well that it was supposed to go the other way originally, and going, hang on, that doesn't look right, let's try it the other way, and it sort of worked ever since, which has been a positive thing, because I don't think we could imagine this track any other way than the way it is now.
Yeah, certainly. It'd be like driving Spa backwards. It just doesn't work the same way.
On a side note, tracks that are very fun backwards. Watkins Glen, if you haven't tried it, race, give it a crack.
Oh, okay.
Up the hill through the S's, then coming down through the S's is amazing.
Right.
Then turn one, you brake as deep as you dare. It's very challenging. There's a good side note.
All right. I'll make sure to give that a go. And I suppose that gets the official V8's online endorsement. Start up a private test session by yourself and drive Watkins Glen backwards. Obviously, don't do it in an official session or a multiplayer session, because that will get you reported and possibly banned. So don't do that.
Do it by yourself or do it in your own session. Don't ruin anyone else's night by running tracks backwards, but we get ready to go. And Phil Cell trying to speed up the pack a little bit there. They sort of got bottled up a little bit. And as soon as the pace car comes in, I'm going to guess that he's going to go almost straight away.
Yeah, I'd say so.
As soon as
Getting
they
that
get
good
straight.
run down the straight.
Yep.
So double file start here for Phillip Island, this 45-minute race. And Phil Cell is now away, just coming out of the final turn. He's gotten a very good jump as the green flag flies in the Oceanic Sprint Championship at Phillip Island. Winkleman already under attack here from El Nabi and from Rizzo as well. A double-pronged Mercedes attack. They're going 3 wide into turn 1 here. It looks like Winkleman's going to try and hold it around the outside on Rizzo. Sorry, El Nabi. And we got big crashes down in the back. Oh, lots of cars off. We've got David Jellings. We've got
Dylan Carroll as
wow.
well.
Yeah, Brad Watson as
Oh,
well.
there's another crash at turn 2 as well. A bigger crash at turn 2. That's a huge one. The second one. We'll get a Cup Price Racing replay and try and pick up exactly what's going on, because that was chaotic, to say the least.
Certainly. It looks like Phil Gadd and JP Courier came together. What on earth happened there?
So it looks like it started from
contact
it
started
between
from the turn 1 crash.
And then as Jellings tried to come back onto the track, there's a... Not sure who that was. It was a bit ambitious coming back on with a...
Jellings and Jeremy Franklin came together, and Franklin was hit onto the circuit basically, and that basically involved a ton of guys in turn 2. Definitely not what you want to see. So a lot of Pro Force cars involved in that. But the first lap has been complete. Jared Filsell leads by 0.6 from Anthony Winkleman. It looks like Forzan has fallen back. Oh, and Mark Rayner and Scott Cisłowski getting involved in the battle. It looks like Rayner ran wide in turn 1. That's brought Cisłowski right into it.
Back live after all of our replays, trying to get as much covered in that turn 1 issue as possible.
Yeah, certainly. Not what you want to see, but it's definitely resulted in some shuffling of the field. So, looks like it's still all fairly close here up the front. Filsell and Winkleman haven't let each other go. The battle between Rizzo, El Nabi, and Morris is certainly heating up, as is Rayner versus Cisłowski. And even then, behind them, Brenton O'Brien versus David Coleman, and Nino Natali just behind them. So, all through the top 10, currently we've got battles happening.
And again, Ross Rizzo gaining spots on his starting position just by staying out of trouble.
That's it.
Started 4th, I'm fairly sure. He's up into 3rd.
Yep.
Of course, leading the championship, so this will be good for that campaign. But Filsell Winkleman, this will be a great battle to watch as these two start to fight it out as they start their 3rd lap.
Yep, and remember that the BMW is not as good on straight line speed as the rest of the GT3 cars are, so Winkleman doesn't want to lose that draft. He wants to stay in touch with Filsell as much as possible.
And those two have pulled a fairly decent gap from Ross Rizzo, and El Nabi is right on the tail of Ross Rizzo.
So the Mercedes and BMW party currently looking quite nice, but it looks like El Nabi's pulling out and he's going to go for a move here on Rizzo. Rizzo sees him coming and, well, he's got a championship to think about. He doesn't want to get too involved in moves like that.
He's just got to play it sensible for the next few laps. Something's happened to Justin Strickland as well. I'm not too sure what has happened with him.
As far as I'm aware, Strickland was one of the cars involved in the lap 1 crash. Brenton O'Brien, though, and David Coleman going side by side through Hayshed. Oh, bit of a touch. And have a look there at Nino. He's getting backed up slightly. He's going to go, oh, big touch there, and that's going to send Natali around. Ah, oh, and that is a real shame. What happened there? Looks like just coming over Lukey. O'Brien was coming back across for the braking zone into into MG, and it looks like Natali just fired it towards the inside, and yeah, well, that wasn't going to work. O'Brien was already braking in a straight line.
They're just getting a Cup Price Racing replay because we're watching the incident that has taken Justin Strickland out of the race contact, and see on board Natal's trying to find a gap between the two cars, and a little bit strange that one, wasn't it?
Yeah, it looked like he got on the brakes just a bit too early before he could really straighten the car out, firing it towards the apex, and O'Brien wasn't going to move.
Are both sort of angling for the same line at the same time, weren't they? It wasn't really one or the other purely at fault. It was a bit strange, but
yeah,
we continue on, and our leaders have broken a fairly big gap now.
Yeah, they certainly have, and it looks like Winkelmann is gaining on Phil Sell, if anything.
Last 2 laps he's been quicker than Phil Sell. Last lap he was 1.5 tenths quicker, and the lap previous Winkelmann did the fastest lap of the race. So Winkelmann, while we're saying the BMW is down on speed, it's not down on pace.
Yeah, it certainly isn't, and Winkelmann will have the draft of Phil Sell to thank for some of that pace. Let's have a look. A 26.1 from Phil Sell, 26.2 from Winkelmann, so the gap still under half a second. Winkelmann really pushing that BMW hard, coming into turn 2. He's taken that really wide line in the center just to turn it into a bit of a double apex turn and get that exit together.
And Winkelmann will probably be playing the long game too, thinking about the strategy of fuel and possibly saving a little bit of fuel now for the long-term gain at the end of the race where it comes to pit stop times. No, if you can save a bit of fuel now, a little bit shorter stop, might enable him to jump Phil Sell.
Yeah, certainly would. I'm looking forward to seeing how that turns out, but yeah, the leaders are definitely checking out on third place back. Looks like El Nabi hasn't quite been able to shake Rizzo yet.
Mark Rayner's gone off the track at Lukey Heights. He was in 6th position. He's dropping back. He's lost 1 spot, and he's not far off having Coleman come and attempt to take the spot away as well, as we get a quick Cup Price Racing replay and see what exactly happened.
It looks like it was just simple oversteer under brakes. He did catch the grass a little bit on the entry, but that was before he started braking. I think the car was just a little bit unsettled. He wasn't quite able to hold it.
Did a good job to not fire it into the wall or come across the track in front of Zyslowski, but continues on. He's only lost 1 spot, so it's not overly painful. Go back to the leaders again.
Yeah, have a look at how close Winkelmann is to Phil Sell here, and you can see right there Winkelmann pushing a lot harder than Phil Sell under brakes. In fact, last lap there at the hairpin, he ran a little bit wide because he braked too late.
He's just putting enough pressure on Phil Sell to... I don't think we'll see Phil Sell make a mistake as such, but, just the slight little error of a tiny little bit too late on the brakes or just missing an apex, which is all that Winkelmann will have to do with the pace that he's got at the moment to possibly fire in a move.
Yeah, he's getting closer and closer to attempting one of those at MG. You can see Phil Sell just covering him there on the inside. Doesn't want to leave it too open to Winkelmann. But the BMW, it gets a lot of its pace from the fast corners. And Phillip Island, well, every single turn, bar maybe 2 or 3 of the turns here at Phillip Island, they're fast. And the BMW has really got an edge. So as they come through turn 1, it looks like Phil Sell... He's going through those turns at quite a rate of speed, Phil Sell, but I don't know. It looks to me like Winkelmann's a little more relaxed.
Yeah, it looks like Phil Sell's a lot more aggressive in the way the car's behaving at the moment, but yeah, that might not be as big of an issue for someone like Phil Sell, but Winkelmann will probably be trying to save some tyres as well for later on in the race too, because the way that the pit stops work, there'll be no tyres taken, just a splash of fuel and go again. If you can save a little bit of tyres for the end of the 45 minutes, that will definitely play a better factor for yourself.
This is also true. Can combine that with the lack of extra fuel that you have to put in at the stop, and, well, he's going to have a net gain, isn't he? If he can just stay on Phil Sell's bumper, maybe undercut him at the pit stop, he'll have it, but it looks like he's lost a little bit of ground to Phil Sell in those last couple of turns. Oh, that is not the line you want to see anyone taking through the last turn, and that's stretched the gap out now to about 0.7 of a second again.
Yeah, and hopefully he can maintain that draft, because if he loses the draft, Phil Sell will check out because of the pace disadvantage the BMW has. But it looks like he's doing a good job maintaining that gap and not losing too much pace now that he's gone through Southern Loop.
Yes, indeed. And it looks like the rest of the field is pretty spaced out at the moment. This is the closest battle we've got on track right now, the battle for the lead.
Oh, something's happened to Dylan Carroll. He's gone off the track at Southern Loop.
Oh, he has to, yeah. Gonna have a quick look at what happened there. Looks to me like he lost it under brakes. That's something that we've seen quite a bit with the Ferrari, actually. We saw it at Sonoma, didn't we? When you're braking in a fast turn, the Ferrari doesn't quite like it as much as the others.
Ferrari's a little bit more unsettled under brakes than the other cars out there, and that's probably why we've seen BMW have the biggest advantage. Sorry, the Mercedes have the biggest advantage, I should say.
I'll tell you one battle that would probably be good to look at. The battle for 12th, 13th, and 14th. It looks like Simon Mazzomo's lost 12th position. Lost a couple of positions, actually. So himself, Dave Oliver, and Brad Watson are in their own little battle pack together.
Yeah, they've been pretty close for a few laps. Watson's caught up to those guys, and he's got a fair bit of damage from lap 1 too, has Watson, but it doesn't look like it's hurting his pace too much, and he might look at making a move on Oliver. Not quite close enough.
Oh, look at how much faster he is into turn 1. That's incredible.
Even with that damage, that BMW looks... Whoa, don't do that. That's very ambitious to do that through the double apex component of turn 2 at Southern Loop.
He's lining up a move, is Watson.
Oh, he definitely
This is going to be really interesting. Oliver's just staying in the middle of the road, covering him off. And Mazzomo behind them is just hanging around, waiting for something to go off.
I think he's more thinking about this is a chance to save fuel and possibly take advantage if there is an incident, because these two look really racy. There's every chance of that happening.
Alright, this is pretty entertaining, actually, as they come through. Wow, have a look at Watson. Even though he... Oh, hang
there's
on a
a car
minute.
in the fence. That's
David
Coleman.
Coleman.
Again.
Oh,
That's
and
twice.
see, that's happened again. Ferrari, fast turn, losing under brakes.
And that's twice that Coleman's done that at Lukey Heights.
Yeah, so he was in 8th position last lap when that happened, so that's knocked him back a fair bit. Have a look down the straight, though, at Oliver versus Watson. Watson has the slipstream. Might he go for a move in turn 1? He's going to move to the inside, see what he can do. Can Oliver hold it in his Mercedes? Oh, have a look at Watson. Even a little bit of a tap.
Straight through. Oh, and Oliver getting a bit of a drift happening into Southern Loop, and it's going to hold on. Mazzomo's a little bit too far back, but Oliver's got damage because he's struggling to hold that car.
Yeah, I that was a bit of netcode contact between himself and Watson. It did look like Oliver left enough room, but I think a little bit of netcode between those cars has resulted in some right-hand side damage to Oliver's car, which is a bit of a shame.
Get a quick replay of that pass because that was very, very impressive.
Edge of your seat stuff there through turn 1, so looks like Yeah.
Yeah, Oliver's definitely
there
got
was
damage.
still some distance between the cars.
Yeah, there was for sure. And Oliver's really struggling. He's just dropping spots now. He's just lost a spot to Mark Simon and struggling to hold on from Phillip Morton. So don't be surprised if we see Oliver in the pits run an alternate strategy to take his fuel now and bring it home.
Yep. Tell you what, yeah, actually, it looks like Oliver's crabbing a bit.
Yeah.
He's having to hold the wheel at like a 45-degree angle to stay straight. That is a real shame for Oliver. Like, that wasn't Watson's fault. It wasn't Oliver's fault either. It's just unfortunate netcode in the middle of turn 1.
Oh,
and I'm more impressed.
Dylan Carroll. Shannon Mason bumping down the front
Oh,
straight. Oh, no, right goes Carroll.
Round he goes. And see, that's how it could have turned out between Oliver and Watson. I'm impressed with both Oliver and Watson. Watson for the pass, and Oliver for being able to hold it, getting a hit in the middle of turn 1. But goodness me, that incident between Carroll and Mason just looked to me like both of them were attempting to go for the same bit of track. And
Actually, Mason actually got the front right-hand wheel onto the dirt, and as he's come and collected it back onto the track, it shot him a bit wide. So there probably was enough room if Mason didn't quite cut or hit the grass coming into the corner. So that's hurt Dylan Carroll, but back up the front. Back down to 6/10 again.
Yeah, I suppose it didn't help between Carroll and Mason that they were bumping each other side by side on the run up to turn 1. That probably didn't bode very well for the inevitable move.
Probably added a bit of red mist to both of them.
Yes, I'd have to say.
Mark Simon off the track at the final corner. He's cut the last corner quite aggressively off in the dirt. See if we can pick up what happened to him, but he's lost a couple of spots as well. And Shannon Mason has come into the pits to get damage repaired from that incident.
Forzan El Nabi, meanwhile, has been able to gap Ross Rizzo and Matt Morris quite impressively, actually.
He's got 3 seconds.
Yeah. So I don't know what's gotten into El Nabi, but he's managed to find quite a bit of pace there.
He's doing quite a good job just lapping around. He's actually not too far off pace-wise off the 2 leaders. And a fair bit quicker than the pack behind. So he's doing mid to high 126s, low 26s for the leaders, and low 27s for the pack behind. So he's doing a good job.
Yeah, he certainly is. He has got a bit of time to make up to Phil Sell and Winkleman at the front, but who knows? Depending on if any incidents happen between the top 2 or to any of them, El Nabi might have a look in at second place or better here.
Definitely in with a shot, depending on how things play out with pit stops as well. And these guys will be starting to crunch numbers right now and working out how much fuel they've saved and how much is the exact, to the decimal point of a litre, how much they need to take when they come in for their pit stop, because that could be the difference between coming out ahead or behind when you got 2 cars this close.
Yeah, you're 100% right there, Jay, and, well, the pit window is already open, but both of our leaders have not elected to go in yet.
We've seen with the big wide pit window that most drivers are pitted around the 33, 34 minute mark and just done a splash of fuel to bring it home. But what it has done, it's enabled guys who've been involved in incidents like we just saw with Shannon Mason and Dylan Carroll. They've been able to pit on the lap on like 30, 32 minutes to go and still be in with a shot later in the race. So the nice wide windows meant that there's a fair bit of strategy play going on as to who will pit when the time does come. But I'll be guessing another 15 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes before we see our 2 leaders pit. But anyone after that could pit at any time from now. To throw a bit of a curveball, Winkleman using all the track plus a bit more.
Yeah, I don't think he's backing off at all.
No, he's not. Definitely no fuel saving strategy with that sort of line, and very deep in to Honda and managed to pull it up quite well.
I mean, if I'm not mistaken, I think I remember reading that the BMW's one of the lightest on fuel usage of all the GT3 cars, so Winkleman can probably afford to push. Of course, I'm sure someone in the chat will correct me if I'm wrong.
Ross Rizzo's starting to look vulnerable to Matt Morris.
Yeah, he certainly is. Morris has been on the back of him for quite some time, and only now is only now is Rizzo seeming to start falling off. Of course, Matt Morris in the same car as Winkleman, so there is a chance that his car will be going through the same sort of stuff at this point in the race.
Of course, tonight is a bit of a warm-up for Sunday's big event. The Oceanic Endurance Championship will be live Sunday morning, 9:45 Australian Eastern Daylight Savings Time for 6 hours of Monza, which I'm really looking forward to. Unfortunately, Reese, you're not going to be able to race this one.
Yeah, certainly not. I'm not going to be able to commentate either. My internet service provider is doing some maintenance, upgrading the firmware on their routers, so there's going to be a 3-hour outage in my internet service, and that coincides with the majority of OEC at Monza. So it's a bit unfortunate. I was looking forward to having a run and having a bit of a chat, but I'll be back for round 2. Don't you worry about that.
For round 2. Won't be too far away from coming up. This series is coming up very, very quick, but we'll be live for the entire 6 hours this Sunday, and then next Sunday we'll have V8 Scops. We head for the final race in the Hyperstimulator Endurance Cup as we head to the Marvelous Road Atlanta. So as we begin one championship, we head to the conclusion or the final stages of another, and V8 Scops has become bigger than we expected this year. And next year we've already got planning underway for some quite big things, which we'll have announced in the next few weeks. Morris is looking really racy right now.
He certainly is, and Winkleman just went wide on the exit of turn 1 again. So he's not given up. But yeah, that Morris v Rizzo battle, the closest on track right now. Oh, have a look at the gain. Oh.
Yeah, Morris is looking really good under brakes, isn't he?
Yeah, late apexing that hairpin, getting a little bit of a run on Rizzo, but once again, Ross being a consummate professional in this GT3, he's just able to keep going, keep the car out of trouble, and be there when he needs to most.
Oh, look at the gain and the different line that the BMW takes through Lukey Heights, and then big, huge gain through MG under brakes.
That's impressive. But then on throttle, the Mercedes just absolutely monsters it. The Mercedes with that big, torquey, low-revving V8. The V8 and the BMW, a bit lower capacity and a bit higher revving. Doesn't have as much torque, so it really... Oh, have a look at Morris. Almost going off.
That's commitment plus.
Yeah.
It's not where you want to put 2 wheels in the dirt through the fastest corner on this track. One of the fastest corners in Australian motorsport. One of the fastest corners that these guys will go to in this series. But
yeah,
the commitment levels are at 120% at the moment from both Rizzo and Morris. And Morris looks like he might have enough pace to get past, but Rizzo's just got the power down at the right spots.
Yeah, he certainly has. Going back once again to the differences between these cars. That BMW is lighter. It's got a bit more mechanical grip available. It's got an engine that doesn't have as much torque as the Mercedes, but it makes it all up in the corners. But you'll see, coming out of MG, Rizzo's just able to get that power down at nice low revs, and the car just goes. Have a look there at Morris, nearly going into the back of Rizzo into MG. This is an excellent battle.
Yeah, it's a fantastic battle. These guys are going at it very hard, very fair, with the right amount of aggression too, which is great to see. Love these sort of battles. We've got 20 minutes to go in the race now, so we're into the second half, into the second phase.
Yep, and I wonder, we may expect our leaders in the next few laps. And another battle eventuating further down the field, and these are the last cars on the lead lap. Shannon Mason and David Coleman fighting for position 18. Looks like Mason is the faster car in this pack at the moment. The leaders are just coming up on them now.
Yeah, so this could play into the hands of Anthony Winkleman, because if Phil Cell gets held up just a small amount, something's happened to James McKee as well. He's just ended up back in the pits. See if we can pick up what's happened to McKee.
Ah, he overshot the hairpin. Either that or he had some problems.
He's had some sort of failure, I think, because the engine is still running quite aggressively and it's in neutral, so...
Pedal failure, maybe.
Yeah, pedal failure, throttle stuck or throttle jammed. It's strange. We've seen that a fair bit lately with drivers having hardware failures. Something we never used to see, but we're seeing a little bit more than we used to.
Yeah, certainly. I think with this new age of sim equipment that's made by boutique manufacturers or stuff that you've constructed yourself, it does increase the potential of a rate of failure.
Timely reminder that you should maintain your equipment like you would maintain your car. Clean your pedals, look after your wheel. Clean out your computer.
Yes. I still need to do that.
Yeah, I just looked at mine too.
Yeah. I've got the side of mine open because I've been having some trouble with my power supply lately, and probably have to send it back for warranty repair. So I've got a good view into the innards of my PC. I know exactly where every spot of dust is now.
Yeah, I know where all mine is too, and I know there's plenty of it. So, battle between Brad Watson and Brenton O'Brien is very, very hot at the moment. They just had a car run off the track in front of them, which I'm thinking was Dave Oliver.
Seems that way.
He's obviously ended up one lap down with his issues he had earlier in the race, but he has made his pit stop, so he will get that lap back at the end. We approach 15 odd minutes to go.
Looks like Matt Morris has taken his pit stop. He's back down in 9th place.
And 12-second stop for him as well. So we'll keep an eye on the times for Rizzo and El Nabi when it comes time for those guys to pit. And the battle for the lead is closed up again. It's stretched out to about 8 tenths. So there's a car off just ahead. Shannon Mason right ahead of the race leaders. That would have been a little bit scary for the race leaders to see a car scooting off the track just ahead of you.
It certainly would have, and I've noticed there's a bit of a pattern forming in this race. The kind of battle that we've seen the most of in this event is a BMW chasing a Mercedes.
Tell you what, Mason had a very, very good drift through Lukey Heights. He did a good job to keep that out of the fence. We go back live. Yeah, BMW chasing down the Mercedes has been pretty much the whole way through, but we haven't really seen too many BMWs able to make the pass. Pretty much the one from Watson on Oliver's the only real pass that we've seen from
As
the
Watson
BMWs.
goes into the pits.
Yep. And have a look at how close Winkleman is now.
Yeah.
He is right there.
The gap's back under half a second at the line now. We'll see if these guys go into the pits together or if Winkleman will decide to try and undercut Phil.
I would be guessing that Winkleman will come in a lap earlier than Phil. We're hearing too that Phil has lost all his automated software for calculating fuel numbers too, so he's going to have to try and do it mentally on the fly, which is just an extra curveball for Phil.
Yep, for sure. Well, they're coming out of the second last turn now. Looks like both of them avoid the pits. Oh, hang on a minute. Behind them, goodness me, David Coleman going off in the strangest way.
And again, Coleman off the track. This has happened a few too many times for Coleman in this race.
Yeah, what on earth happened to him? I'm going to have another look at that.
Yeah, we'll get a Cut Price Racing replay and work out what happened and try and solve the pieces of the puzzle.
Yeah, it looks like he lost it on throttle. Car got a bit unsettled over the curb, and it was just a lazy spin, really, which is a bit of a shame.
He hasn't had a great race, has he, Coleman? He did a good job in qualifying, and it's gone downhill since then for him. But Winkleman is really on a charge.
Oh yeah, a little bit of oversteer on the exit of Siberia, and I can't help but think, Jay, what kind of race would we be seeing were it not for those incidents on the opening lap?
Would have been very tight the whole way through the field, I'd be guessing, because that took a fair chunk of drivers out of this race. About 8 or so were either directly involved, resulting in them pretty much out of the race, or got damage. It's resulted in their pace being quite down. We're seeing another driver in the pits, Mark Simon in, so only 8 drivers left to make their stops as we approach 13 minutes remaining in this race.
Yes, indeed. Oh, and it looks like Winkleman had his line into turn 1 compromised slightly by Mark Simon, who now goes a lap down. Of course, that's just one of those things that happens occasionally. Sometimes you'll get caught in a position that isn't very good.
So into the pits comes Sislowski and Rayner. So we'll keep an eye on those guys. Sislowski was in 5th, Rayner was in 6th.
They got pit boxes right next to each other. Now Sislowski's away.
And Morris has cleared them quite easily.
And away goes Rayner. So that's that sorted.
I'm going to guess Winkleman will come in this lap and Phil in the lap after.
Yeah.
Because traffic is really becoming a factor now.
Have a look. Phil versus Philip Morton here. Morton. Oh, Phil getting held up a bit here. And true to form, Winkleman goes into the pits, and wow, Phil. This moment here with Philip Morton could have proven Phil's downfall in this race.
Yeah, that's definitely compromised him for speed. He's probably lost 3 or 4 tenths of a second, and that could be the difference when we come into this pit stop of whether he comes out ahead or behind. The gap was 6 tenths of a second when Winkleman drove into the pit lane. So we'll see what happens there. El Nabi into the pits. Ross Rizzo continues on. So only 3 drivers left to pit. Brenton O'Brien, the other of our 3 left to pit, and he goes on for one more. So
Winkleman has exited the pits now. And he's taking the bicycle pit exit.
Yeah, when you've got a clear exit, it's not too bad to take that line because it swings you into turn 1. A little bit safer than coming out right at the pit wall sometimes. But in other situations, it's much safer to take the road racing pit exit. And El Nabi's back out as well. The 4 cars left to pit in Carroll, O'Brien, Rizzo, and Philsell, and I would be fairly sure that Philsell will come in now.
Yeah, well, he's just coming out of MG. And it looks to me as though, yes, he is going to come in.
Very committed entry too.
Yeah, Jesus. Wonder if he's managed to slow down in time. I think he would have, but it was certainly borderline.
It was tight between them, between the line, the cones, and his pit lane speed limiter. They dropped down to 72 kilometres per hour down the lane. Ross Rizzo also in the pit, so we'll keep an eye on Rizzo versus Al Nabi versus Morris. But on screen is Winkelmann, 10.2 second stop for him, 9.8 for Philsell. So has Philsell taken enough fuel? Because that is a fairly short stop, the shortest out of pretty much everyone. Al Nabi's only gone 6.3.
Goodness me, I wonder what... What? Where did that come from?
That's a very short stop for Al Nabi, so I'm wondering if Al Nabi has taken enough fuel.
Yeah.
And Rizzo's come out just ahead of Matt Morris once again.
So that battle is going to resume between them.
Actually, Rizzo's
In fact,
got a fairly big gap. Yeah.
Rizzo's gained. So, yeah, I think Matt Morris might have pitted a bit too early. Maybe he got involved in some traffic of his own.
Had a fairly long stop, did Morris as well. So I'm actually seeing Rizzo's stop time 8.6, so 4.5 second quicker stop for Rizzo. And the gap between those two cars, 4.5 seconds.
Yes, well, the gap up the front has increased thanks to Philsell's very quick pit stop.
Battle on screen is Mark Simon in 12th, Dylan Carroll in 13th position. Carroll having a look up the inside. Look at the pace advantage for the Ferrari through turn 1. He goes, move, done. Good move.
Yeah, Simon had to have a couple of goes at turn 1 once Carroll was in there.
Look at how quickly the gaps spread out too. Carroll's pulling away a fair bit fairly quickly.
Yeah, he's flying at the moment, wanting to make up as many positions as possible after his earlier incident with Shannon Mason.
David Coleman's off the track once again, so that's definitely a night to forget for Coleman. He's off at turn 2. We'll get another Cut Price Racing replay, and I'm sure that he will not want to go back and watch this race. Just under brakes, around she goes.
Yes, indeed.
Another spot loss for him.
Yeah, and I suppose in the Ferrari, given that we've seen that quite a bit, that is a real shame.
Gap first to second, 2 seconds. So Philsell did a very, very good job timing his pit stop. And the outlap has been what has got him that gap, because his outlap was around about 1.5 seconds quicker than the outlap of Winkelmann. Outlap for Philsell, a 29.7 versus a 31.
Wow.
For Winkelmann. So a very good lap on that outlap from Philsell. That's been able to get him that gap.
Yeah, that may have had something to do with the way he took the pit exit, because remember, Winkelmann took the motorcycle pit exit.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, and that would have cost him a bit of time. Whereas Philsell, just shooting out straight onto the track with the car pit exit, he was able to get right on the racing line for turn 1 right away. So, looking at El Nabi, I guess the big question on my mind is...
Has he got enough fuel?
Yeah, exactly right.
I think I just read your mind. But
yes.
I'll be shocked if he can make it on that little of a fuel stop.
Yeah, I will too.
Considering the rest of the Mercedes are between 10 and 13 seconds for their stop, only a 6-second stop is a massive difference. So for me, I think Philsell's probably going to save a tiny bit of fuel with only the 9.8 second stop. 8.6 for Rizzo for his stop. 9.1 for O'Brien. So 10.3, 10.6, 9.7, 13.2 for the rest of the Mercedes. So 6.3 seems a fair bit too short for me.
Yeah, a little outside the averages, I suppose.
And right on cue, the predictometers decided to have a little bit of a heart attack.
Oh, yes.
5.5 minutes to go. Tends to do that when we haven't got many laps to go in the race, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I think it needs to get sacked once again and come good, and it's gone bad again. Just likes teasing and tormenting, does the predictometer?
It certainly does, and likes to take us along for a ride with it.
So probably got 4 laps of racing, 3.5 laps of racing left. Gap between El Nabi back to Rizzo is pretty much 9 seconds. So we'll see if that gap closes up over the next lap or two. And Phil's pulling a gap.
Yeah, he is. He's just been eking it out by a couple of tenths a lap.
It's out to 2.6 seconds. So we've got 4 minutes left on the clock. The predictometer says we've got -1 laps to go. That's always good. And Al Nabi back in the pits, so just as expected.
Phil just had a big moment in turn 1. He didn't spin, but he had a big slide. That'll have brought Winkleman back into contention a little.
And Al Nabi in the pits to get more fuel, so that's confirmed our suspicions on him not having enough. And guess what? Rizzo once again into third.
Yep, that right there. That's been Rizzo's season all from the very start. And so El Navi is now down in 6th place and about to fall into the clutches of Rayner unless he can get that pace back up. So Kozlowski into the top 5.
Another driver that's just kept out of trouble is Kozlowski. Started in 7th and made his way up into 5th. And Brent O'Brien, Brad Watson, that battle ended at the pit stops. And it's back into it again.
Sorry, Jay. There was just a big moment up the front again with Phil Sell. He had a bit of a run-in with Rodney Dangry in a lap car at MG. I think that deserves a replay for sure.
Got it on screen right now.
So, looks like, what on earth was happening there? Goodness me.
Dangry went wide to let the other car through that was coming to pass him. And he's put 2 wheels in the dirt, which has shot him back across the track. And Phil Sal was very lucky that didn't end his race.
Yeah.
So we go back live to the battle for 8th and 9th. Brent O'Brien's done a great job. He started in 15th. He's up into 8th. And he's got Brad Watson in behind, who's been very ambitious with his passing manoeuvres. Predictometer's back.
Oh, have a look at this. Watson looks like he might have a bit of a run on O'Brien. No, stay behind him, Brad. You don't want to break the draft too early. Looks like O'Brien's going to cover the inside coming into turn 1. Can Watson take him around the outside? Yes, he can.
Wow. What a move.
Awesome move.
I did not think that was going to happen. I had the camera set up on the wrong side of the car and was not ready for a car to go around the outside there. That was never going to happen. I am shocked. What a move from Watson. That's 2 amazing passes that he's made at turn 1.
Well, that puts him up into 8th place, and, well, Rayner's not that far ahead either. I doubt Watson will be able to catch Rayner before the end, but still, anything can happen.
This will be the last lap of the race too, with only a minute left on the clock. This is lap number 31. And when they cross the line, the clock will be at 0. So this will be the last lap. And the gap first to second is 1.7 seconds. I don't think Winkleman will be able to gain that. But you never know. We've seen some strange things in these races, and we've seen some strange things tonight.
Yeah, we certainly have. I wonder if there's any lapped cars ahead of Phil Sell. There is. Simon Mazzomo just up ahead of them. I don't know if Mazzomo will come into play, though.
If he does, I don't think he'll be a factor. He's a pretty switched-on driver as Mazzomo, one of the admins of this series, so he'll make sure he doesn't interfere. But he also will want to make sure he stays on the lead lap, because that is always a pretty cool achievement to do. But Phil Sell up to MG for the 31st and final time in this round of the Oceanic Sprint Championship. Been a very, very good drive. Just managed to get pole position by one of the smallest margins we've seen in a long, long time. Through the final corner, and will come up to cross the finish line and win round 6 of the Oceanic Sprint Championship at Phillip Island.
Yep, a very good achievement there from Phil Sell, and Anthony Winkleman coming home in a fantastic second. Was harassing Phil Sell all race, and, well, he's on the podium. Ross Rizzo, though, once again, finishing in a really good position simply by staying out of trouble. Started 4th, and is going to cross the line to finish in 3rd place, completing the podium positions, while Matt Morris comes up behind him to take 4th. And Kozlowski manages to get a Ferrari into the top 5. Fantastic drive from Scott.
Yeah, Al Nabi's going to end up in 6th position after not having a great play on fuel numbers. So, unfortunate end to his race, what could have been, but it's still a fight for a position as we come up into the final call. And Dylan Carroll's had some good pace, but a fair bit of bad luck and being involved in a couple of incidents. And have a look at the pace advantage he's got on JP Courier. Will he be able to get him before the line?
Yeah, good question. It looks like he's got a big run here coming off the final turn. They're going to go side by side. Or Courier moves over to try and cover almost.
Oh, Carroll's got him! Oh!
Across the line.
And
But
both into the
Carroll's
fence.
gonna take
Wow. What an end.
Wow. That was spectacular.
What gap between the two at the end there. 38 thousandths of a second.
Oh, that was crazy. Brilliant stuff. I mean, obviously not what Carroll would have liked too much to have contact made with him before the line, but hey, at least he got the position.
And lucky it's a video game too, because that would have been disastrous in real life. And that's the sort of fighting you'd see in real life too, but that's we've seen accidents like that in real life at Phillip Island. They've never ended too well.
No, certainly not. Well, looks like that has brought to a conclusion proceedings at Phillip Island, so I think it might be a good time to run through the race results.
Take it away, Reese. I'll let you have it.
Jared Philsell currently doing donuts in the start-finish area after taking an excellent win here at Phillip Island tonight. Anthony Winkleman in 2nd. Ross Rizzo completes the podium for Pro Force Racing. Matt Morris comes home in 4th, making it 2 BMWs in the top 5. Kozlowski, the lone Ferrari, in the top 5. Forzen Elnabi coming home in 6th place. It could have been a podium for him, but unfortunately a miscalculation on the fuel strategy cost him that. Mark Rayner in 7th, Brad Watson in 8th after a fantastic pass around the outside of turn 1 on Brendan O'Brien, who finishes in 9th, and Dylan Carroll takes 10th place in spectacular fashion, sideways and on his roof.
JP Courier ends up in 11th, Mark Simon in 12th, Philip Morton in 13th. Biggest mover of the race is Simon Mazzomo, up 10 places. Along with Mark Simon, they both gained 10. Mazzomo in 14th position, the last driver on the lead lap. Then TJ Brown, David Coleman, Rob Harris, Rodney Dangry, Dave Oliver, and Shannon Mason finishing or rounding out the top 20. And then we've got
21st.
Oh, you go. No, you go. You go, friend.
All right. The retirees are continued by James McKee, Nino Natali, Justin Strickland, Jeremy Franklin, David Jellings, and Phil Gadd. Those latter two being taken out on the very first lap. Unfortunate for them, but that is your field. 26 cars here at Phillip Island tonight.
Next week, we head to Snetterton, running the 300 layout. Looking forward to that one. Be a very, very interesting race. Tomorrow night, we are back at Phillip Island once again for the Cup Price Racing Mazda MX-5 Challenge. Looking forward to that one tomorrow night. As we said, Sunday, the commencement of the Oceanic Endurance Championship. 41 cars entered, 3 classes. Will be very, very fun to watch. Cannot wait to bring that to you this weekend and throughout the season proper. All 6 rounds here live in full from start to finish on V8s Online. Next Monday night, we have the official V8 Supercar Series from Montreal. Next Wednesday, as we said, we'll be back for the Oceanic Sprint Championship at Snetterton. And next weekend, we have V8 Scops next round at Road Atlanta.
It's a very good schedule coming up for us here at V8s Online. Make sure that you're there for every single moment of it. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, subscribe to us on YouTube as well, and stay up to date with all of the happenings in the iRacing Australia, New Zealand community. Thank you very much for joining us, viewers. It was fantastic to have you along for this wild ride with us tonight here in the Oceanic Sprint Championship, and we hope that you join us tomorrow and every other day that we're broadcasting as well. You've been watching, once again, the Oceanic Sprint Championship, Round 6 from Phillip Island, your race winner, Jared Philsell, here on V8s Online. See you next time.